Hello everyone, I hope that you're doing really well and welcome back to a brand new tutorial series here on YouTube. So it's been quite a long time since I've filmed a new one of these. A lot of it's been to do with the fact that I've moved house and I live with my boyfriend. We've got a dog, so a lot of life changes have sort of just meant that YouTube tutorials have taken a backseat, but I've missed filming them, so I'm here to bring you a new one today. And speaking of getting a dog, this is our dog Paddy, and he's an English Bull Terrier. He's currently 17 months old and we've had him for about 5 months now. We rescued him, so yeah, he's the loveliest, sweetest boy ever, and I've been desperate to draw him. I've been getting loads of questions like, when are you going to draw Paddy? And I thought, I'm going to do a tutorial because I've not done any sort of tri-colour tutorials on here before really, and it's got a bit of everything, to be honest. He's got like orange fur, black fur, white, he's got like the pink muzzle. There's all sorts of different things going on here. And I chose a reference that has a lot of sunlight in it, so there's a lot of contrast in there and it's just an interesting image to draw. I'm pretty biased though, to be fair. So I'm going to stop babbling on now because I've been going on for long enough, and let's just get started. So just to give you a little bit of insight into the materials that I'm using the Archie's Aquarelle hot pressed watercolour paper in 300 GSM, and this is the like white version. There is a warmer version that I've had before, but last time I ordered I just ended up getting this one. So yeah, that is the paper that I'm using, and I'll mostly be using Faber Castell Polychromos, perhaps with a few different pencils thrown in like Luminance and Pablo's, depending on if I need them. But the main coloured pencils that I use are the Polychromos, and everything that you'll need to know will be listed in the description, such as my pencil sharpener, eraser, like extra tools, all that kind of stuff, the reference photo and the outline that you can print out and trace over with tracing paper so that you can get the perfect proportions, which means that you're already part of the way there to getting this looking realistic. But if you want, you can challenge yourself and draw freehand. I just like to save time by tracing my outlines a lot of the time, so as you can imagine, doing the colour takes a long time. So we're going to start on the eye, because I always start on the eye. I just think if you get the eye wrong, then the whole portrait's going to look weird, so I like to make sure I get that right first before I go any further. And I'm going to start with the colour that I pretty much always use to start on the eyes, and that is Dark Sepia 175 from the Polychromos. And I'm just going to take that and start to outline the eye where all those darker areas are. So if you hear any background noise in this video, it's because Paddy is currently sat in here with me. He's got a thing for sitting on the dirty laundry. He pulls it out of the laundry basket and then sleeps on it. It's really funny. It must be like something he likes the smell of, I don't know, it's so strange, but each to their own. So I'm just softly outlining. I don't press hard when I'm doing this, I like to press very lightly. To be honest, I do like to work very lightly in general these days. I used to press on really hard. And it's just, you make more mistakes that way, I think. The lighter that you press, the easier it is to correct anything. And you can sort of take your time and build things up really slowly. So yeah, once you've sort of pressed on really hard, you can't really take it away very easily. But yeah, I just like to use this as a bit of a guideline to where the eye is. Okay, now I'm going to do pretty much the same thing to indicate where this highlight is. So with coloured pencils, because you can't take things away, you can never get back to the white of the paper unless you literally just leave it white. So with highlights and stuff, I tend to just leave it lighter. So I'm just going to go around follow these little shapes. They're like the little reflections in the eye. And just leave that lighter. And then there's like a tiny little bit here where you can see like his waterline. I'm just going to go around that. Okay, now we've got the main sort of details mapped in. I'm just going to use my eraser just to get rid of any like pencil outlines to tidy it up a little bit. This is a Faber Castell putty eraser and they're mouldable, so they're really good for getting little details, and you don't get any of those like annoying little flaky bits that come off an eraser. So I highly recommend getting one of those. And now I think we're going to put a base colour in the eye just to smooth out the grain of the paper, because this Arches is a little bit textured, so it's really good for gripping the pencil when it's slightly more textured. If you've got a really smooth paper, then it's not going to grip that colour as easily, so you'll probably find you have to really work that colour in. But the only thing is you do have to smooth the grain out a little bit with like a base colour. Now because this eye is so dark, you can't really see what the colour is in there too easily. I might just use a bit of cold grey 1 as the base, because I can see there's a slight bit more of a blue tone. So cold grey 1, 230, and this is like one of my most used colours for like doing a base coat, because it's nice and light. I generally use a light colour for a base coat, and it's really good for drawing like black dogs, like anything with a cool tone to it. So I'm just applying a little bit more pressure than I did with that dark sepia, just to smooth out that grain a little bit, and I'm just colouring it in. But I'm gonna leave that highlight a little bit for now. Actually no, let's just go over it, because that does have a little bit of a cold grey colour to it as well. Yeah, just go over it a little bit. Could always like lighten it up a tad later. And then I'm going to use some cold grey 5. So this is a slightly darker version of the cold grey, 234, and I'm going to now layer this on top, going around that highlight and leaving that lighter. Sometimes I do leave them really white, but this one isn't like a bright white. It's a little bit darker, like in more of a shadow. So I'm just going around that, and I'm going to start bringing that in the eye a little bit. It's like a bit darker in the centre where the pupil is, and then it gets a bit lighter towards the bottom. I'm just going to softly blend that in lightly over that eye. Just really softly lifting my pencil off a little bit as I go down, just to fade it down a tad. And I'm going to go over the outer area. They've got very triangular eyes, Bull Terriers. Very triangular in general, like the shapes in their face and stuff. So I think this is like an interesting breed to draw, because they're very unique. They're very different to a lot of other dogs. Just going to go around that little bit there. They've got some really interesting features. People always say, like, when I'm out walking Paddy, they're like, wow, he's got a big head, hasn't he? He has got a very big head though, it's like not fully in proportion to his body. He's got a huge head, huge paws, and a relatively small body for the breed. Is like on the smaller side. A lot of people ask if he's a miniature as well, but he's not. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to use Payne's Grey, which is like, I always say it's like the cool equivalent of the dark sepia. Payne's Grey 181, it's just like a dark, cool toned colour. I'm just going to use that to go over that outer bit where it's darker. Again, I'm not pressing too hard, but still we're leaving that highlight a bit lighter. Bringing it down. I do like to work very slowly, by the way, so bear with me. But working more slowly means that you are seeing where you're going wrong more easily, and sort of can see areas that need extra without adding too much too soon, if that makes sense. I'm also going to go down here and bring it down here a bit, and I'm going to darken up this like middle bit of the eye underneath the highlight and just again blend it down. Okay, now I'm going to go in with some black. I use black quite like sparingly when I can, but if something is dark then I'm not afraid to just go in and add black. So black 199. You'll just have to be careful not to smudge it like by resting your hand on and like moving it too much later on. But I'm just again very lightly just going over that. So if you're very new to coloured pencils, then this is where you'll probably realise just how many layers it takes to do something. I do a lot of layers, building up like from lighter to darker. It just helps you to get the richness and the depth of colour. I don't like to just go straight in with a black because it'll look really flat and lacking colour. It needs to have layers to look realistic and natural. So I'm just going over everything, trying to make sure I'm keeping the shape nice. I'm just darkening it up. But yeah, it's a very slow process. You can't rush coloured pencils. Anytime I've rushed anything, I've always ended up hating what I've done, so I like to take my time. I might just blend a bit more Cold Grey 5 in there. 2, 3, 4. Just so it's not too light in that eye. And now I'm going to use my favourite colour for highlights, which I pretty much always use. Even when I don't see this colour in the reference, I pretty much just always add it in, because it just gives so much like life and shine to the eye. And that is a light cobalt turquoise 154. Really nice turquoise colour, and I just tap it into that highlight at the top. So I'm concentrating it at the top, and then just like fade it out towards the bottom. And it just gives that eye just like instant shine. There we go. I think I might go back in with a bit of black 199, but now add it into this actual eye, like underneath that highlight. Just blend it down. And I'm just going to go over this bit and just darken it up a little bit more. As you like add stuff with coloured pencils, you like do different sections, you see that another section might need to be darkened. So I do tend to go back and like rework some of the bits that I've already done. More there. And then I'm going to go back in with that Payne's Grey 181, and I'm just going to blend down over the top of that highlight a little bit. Just to create a little bit more shading. Might even use my eraser and just make that highlight a little bit bigger at the bottom. That's a great thing about working light, it's easier to lift the colour off. If I'd have pressed really hard with all these colours, it just wouldn't have really done much. Okay, and then I'm just going to correct where I've taken that darker bit away. And just going to make this little tear duct area a little bit smaller. Okay, so because the Polychromos black isn't like super dark black, I do like to use a second black just to darken it up a bit more. Sometimes I use the luminance black, and most of the time I like to use the Derwent Drawing Ivory black because it's super dark. So I'm just going to go in and darken up that outer bit with this. So this is optional, you don't have to do this, it's just like if you have access to these and can do, then it does help to get more depth. I don't press very hard either, it's very light. I'm just going to blend down the eye itself a little bit. might add a little bit more of that light cobalt turquoise, 154. Over the eye again, like it needs a bit more. This is what I do, I just go back and add things anywhere it needs it. Might even add a little bit over that bit. See how it's just starting to come to life? And a bit of the Polychromos Black 199 because you can get a bit more detail with this. I do just want to go around that little bit there with that. And I might just a little bit more in the eye. And up here. So I just use those two like in combination really. Okay, now I think I'm going to start and work my way outwards. So starting on the fur around the eyes. So the area that's like close to his eye looks warmer to me, and then as you go like out further up it starts to get a bit more like a blue tone, so a cooler tone. So I'm going to start with warm grey one, just where it's warm. So warm grey one, 270. Just going to work that around the eye. Just like the area closest to it. Moving that grain out a little bit. Even though I say I like press harder for the base, I don't press like really hard, it's just enough to smooth it out a little bit. Bit more in this inner corner, I think it does come out quite far, that warm area. I'll just blend it out a bit more. This is where I'm going to slightly veer away from the Polychromos and try a different make of pencil, and that is the Pablos, and this is Cocoa. And if you are to get some pencils like outside of the Polychromos, I really recommend this one because it's like a warm grey, but it's got the slightest bit of a purple brown tinge to it, and that is the sort of colour that I can see in his fur here. So I'm going to use this. If you don't have any Pablos and you don't have any plans to buy any, maybe just use something like a warm grey 4 or 5 or something. But yeah, I am going to try this colour. It's a really handy colour to have, and I'm just going to start layering it with little tiny fur strokes around the eye, always looking at what direction the fur is going in, and I sort of alternate between doing like fur strokes up here and down here just to keep it interesting. I never just do straight fur strokes, they're always overlapping, crossing over, like I like to make them look more natural. So I'm just going to start layering that up. This is just such a lovely colour. There isn't really anything like this in the Polychromos. Not quite anyway, like I said, the warm greys are similar, but this just works really nicely for me. So just blending it in very softly, bringing it down. Teeny tiny little strokes. So just to show you what the warm grey 4 would look like in comparison from the Polychromos. similar. It's just got a bit more of like a grey tone to it. Let's do a bit here. You probably won't even be able to tell on camera. It's not got that sort of slight purpley tone to it, so yeah, it just means that we don't have to mix as many colours in this way. And there's also some little fur strokes coming down this way. So I'm not afraid to like keep going over areas that I've already done, you know, to just like keep blending it in. I'm quite happy to like rework that area over and over again. And bringing it down here a bit. So the great thing with this picture of Paddy and like the tricolour fur that he's got, this is going to really like, there's going to be a lot of blending different colours of fur into each other. So like trying to get the transition from like the different tones. It's really good for trying to blend colours together, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. Just bringing it up here. Blending it down here a bit. And bringing it up here. Start to bring it over the top, always looking at the fur direction. Really tiny little taps, gradually building up the colour. Bringing it down here. And just sort of blend it out a bit. And here, just really lightly just softening it up. I like to work in teeny tiny little sections. Okay. And then I'm going to use the dark sepia again from the Polychromos, so 175. And now I'm layering on top of that with this to create even more texture and depth in that fur. So fur is often made up of lots of layers of different colours to create that nice and natural transition between the different areas. Nice level of depth. So it's darker here where there's this like little dark bit, then it gets a bit lighter over the top, so I'm going to concentrate on more of this here. And then sort of gradually lighten it up by just leaving a bit more of a gap between each stroke that I do. Concentrating more of it to that sort of edge of the eye at the top. So just blending it out from that dark bit with the black. See how that's starting to look like an eye shape more and more with each little bit that we add. So it's a little bit lighter around here too, so just going to blend some little strokes up here. And then some round here. You see, I'm literally like tapping the paper when I do these little strokes. Just slightly brushing the paper. And that's the great thing about this arch, is it just sticks. Not like the Fabriano, which you really have to work in. I don't use Fabriano anymore really. I've fallen in love with this Arches paper. So I tend to use this now for my portraits. Just going to extend this a little bit, bring a bit of a line out. Like that. Then I'm going to bring this round the bottom of the eye. Lots of teeny tiny little strokes, but I'm leaving it a bit lighter where that sort of bottom eyelid is. It's a little bit lighter, so leaving that bit. Okay, it's starting to take shape a little bit more. I'm going to apply a little bit more pressure, just a tiny bit. Just start layering a bit more into this like darker bit. So ever so slightly pressing on a tiny bit harder, just enough that it gets a bit more pigment down and starts to darken up that area. When you do work really lightly like this, you can sort of use the same pencil, but by applying different amounts of pressure to get like darker and lighter areas. So you don't have to use as many colours, you can just manipulate the pencil that you're using to work for you, if that makes sense. And a bit more here. When I first sort of started, I used to think that like if an area was dark, you had to use a really dark colour, and if it was a light area, you had to use a light colour, but it's not the case at all. You can use darker colours more lightly in lighter areas to get like more detail and stuff. And in this inner corner there's like a little bit where his fur sort of creates a bit more of a texture, so I'm just going to add that in a little bit there. Like a little bit of texture. And I'm going to darken it up a bit more here. And a bit more around here. So it's just so many layers work together to create the shape. And let's add a bit more around here. He gets a lot of compliments when we're out walking. People are always like, oh, he's so handsome. And I think he knows it as well. But we also get like the people that cross the road because they don't want to be near him, because they look at him and they think he's going to be like scary or aggressive or whatever. But there's such a loving, like affectionate, soft breed. They just look like they'd be like really, I don't know. I think it's a matter of opinion, isn't it? But a lot of people look at them and think they're going to be scary. It is the complete opposite. It's a big softy. Add a bit more around here. A bit more around here. So yeah, you just have to be patient and try and not rush these little strokes. Just got to take your time. Might add a little bit more of that Pablo Coco. Just blend a bit more of that in. Just to give you a little bit more of like a background on his, like what his personality's like. He's just an absolute nutcase. They call them the clown dogs because they're just hilarious. They just do really funny stuff all the time. Like they have the most intense zoomies where they'll just get really excited all of a sudden and they'll start running from one end of the room to the other. They'll knock all of the cushions off the settee. They'll just go on a mad one, and you do not want to be in the way of them when they're doing this because they will just run into you. I've had that happen a few times where he's just barged into me. He usually does it when we get back from a walk, so it's not like he's got loads of energy and he needs to like get it all out, because a lot of the time we have just been and like done loads of exercise. It's just because he's so happy. I always think only really happy, healthy dogs tend to do zoomies, is what they say. So I just think at least it means he's happy. It doesn't matter that the settee's been absolutely destroyed. But yeah, they're really funny. What else do they do? They do this thing called trancing, but Paddy hasn't done it yet. I don't know if he would do, where they like go under like plants or curtains or washing, you know, anything that's like drooping down, and they sort of put the head underneath it and they just sort of walk really slowly and they go into this trance. And I think it's because whatever is like on top of the head is like tickling the head and they love the feel of it. But like no other dogs do that apparently. So they're very unique. I'm just going to use black 199 from the Polychromos. Just going to darken up this area. Yeah, what else do they do? They spin a lot. He likes these little spins. I think the most spins that I've ever counted him do in one go were like 19. 19 spins in one go. And they just do it for no apparent reason, they'll just start doing it and you're like, what has triggered you to start doing that? Yeah, they're funny. Definitely not for like anyone who wants to keep the house looking nice and tidy, which I do. I've really had to like let go of that. Yeah, if you like your tidy, calm home, I don't think an English Bull Terrier would be for you, but if you like a dog that's going to make you laugh every day, that's absolutely wacky and just so much fun, then maybe they'd be for you. You just have to deal with the craziness of everything going everywhere. Just adding a bit more around here. They're also very, very stubborn. Oh, this is another thing they do. So, Paddy just, when he's like not in the mood to walk, he will not walk. And it's not like something that you can train out of them very easily because it's just what they do. Just gonna add a bit up here, near that top of the eye. Yeah, he just puts his paws in the ground, plants them firmly, and he's just like, nah, good luck. Good luck getting me to go anywhere. Usually it's when he's seen something that he's more interested in, or when he's just not in the mood to walk anymore and he's like, right, I'm staying here now, I'm just going to add some down here. And then it's like, you either have to like drag them, which is really hard because they will not move, like they're very strong, and if they don't want to go somewhere, they won't. Or you have to pick them up and carry them, which I do all the time, and he's so heavy. I have to pick him up and carry him. He's like 22 kilograms, and it's like I have to keep putting him down and picking him back up again. Oh, you just never know when it's going to be, and sometimes it's like in the most of difficult of places. I'm going to add a bit more around the bottom. It's so embarrassing when it happens as well, because everyone's watching like, what's going on? And it's like, yeah, my dog just doesn't want to walk, he's just decided enough's enough. So when I can, I tend to go for a walk with people, and then at least there's like something to keep him like motivated to keep walking, or they can help me if he just decides he don't want to. He loves dogs. He absolutely loves other dogs. So we take him to like enclosed dog fields a lot, where he can meet new dogs and new friends and go for a little run, and we don't have to worry about him getting anywhere because his recall isn't great at the minute. We're still training him with stuff. We've only had him for a short while and he has gone from another home, so it's going to take time. But yes, next I'm going to use some cold grey one now because we're getting into the slightly cooler areas of the fur. So I'm blending that. Oh, sorry. I'm going to use some cold grey one now because we're going to move into these like cooler areas just around the eye. So 230. Just going to blend that in to the area that we've just done so it's all nice and seamless. Careful not to go over like the really dark bits, I'm just blending it into the edges. Mostly around here. Keep going over it. And then I think I'm actually going to add a bit more of the warm grey one here. I think it is more warm still as we move upwards. So warm grey one, 270. Just going to bring that up a little bit more there. Just working in little bits at a time. Right, and I'm actually going to use another Pablo because I have been loving this one too for drawing black areas of fur, and that is the Pablo Dark Grey. And I used to just use the Cold Grey 5 for doing this, but because this has got a slightly more teal colour to it, it just seems to work nicer for black fur. So yeah, if you can get hold of that, then do use that one. If not, maybe just use Cold Grey 5, and then I usually add a little bit of the light cobalt turquoise on top to give it that sort of teal turquoise colour, but I'll probably be doing that anyway with the Pablo. I hope that's not confusing. I'm going to use the Pablo anyway, dark grey. And I'm just going to carry on blending these little fur strokes in. Slightly going into what we've done already to blend it in. But now it's going to have that slightly more blue tone. And my teeny tiny fur strokes. Following that fur direction. Blending this here. I'm going to be blending a bit more of that like warm colour into this as well. I'm just going to blend a bit around this area. So it's all nice and seamless. Looks a bit weird at the minute, but once we've blended it all together, it'll be fine. Right, and then back to Coco from the Pablos. I'm going to just work that into that dark grey. So it brings it all together a bit more. Blends it in nice and seamlessly. Bring it up here a bit more. Keep bringing it around the eye. Add a bit more up here. Then I'm going to go back in with the dark sepia 175. Just start blending a bit more of that in. More around there. And here. And here. And here, just bringing it further and further out. A bit more around here. And here. So all these layers will come together to create all this like depth and 3D shape. Might add a little bit more black, 199. Definitely need to darken this bit up. I'll probably even need a bit of that Derwent black, just for that extra bit of depth. A bit more here. A little bit here, I think, where this like little textured bit is. A bit more around here. A little bit around the bottom. It's crying at me now. Big yawn. Add a little bit around here. Right, and I'm going to add a little bit of the Derwent black. Just blend it in. Into this dark area. And this makes such a difference. You just have to tap it on, you don't have to press on. Just because it's got a slightly more like soft feel to it, it just goes on so much easier. Just going to darken up that eye as well. Sometimes you do just have to go back and re-darken up areas that you've already done. A little bit here. And I'm going to add some Payne's Grey, 181. And I'm just going to start blending that around those slightly more blue toned areas for an extra little bit of texture. Oh, he's in a right weird mood now. Oh, we're playing this game, are we? He likes to jump up at my back to get me to play with him. This is usually when he's going to do like some sort of zoomy or spin. He gets all excited and then he just starts going on one. I might just add a little bit more of a brown tone in. He's spinning. So I'm going to add Burnt Umber 280. Just blend that in around here. Tiny bit more of a brown colour. Blending it in, getting that brown tone. It works really nicely with that cocoa. Add a little bit up here. He's getting all restless now. And a little bit around here. A little bit around here. Sometimes these little extra colours make such a difference. And then I might just add a little bit more black 199 just to sharpen up the bottom of that eye a little bit more. He's licking my leg now. Okay. Then I'm just going to finish off with a little bit more light cobalt turquoise 154, just in that little highlight, a little bit more of that. There we go, that's better. Right, and I'm going to leave it there for now. I'm going to carry on in the next video because Paddy is in a playful mood now. So I'm going to go and play with him for a bit, possibly take him for a walk soon. And we'll carry on in the next one. So thank you for joining me. I hope you like this new tutorial series and thank you for your patience waiting for a new one. So see you soon and bye for now.